Hello and welcome back to 8-Bit Keys. In this episode, I want to show you this fascinating keyboard called the Yamaha PCS-500. And, what it looks like is it looks like a keyboard case with possibly a keyboard in it. But this is the actual keyboard, not just the case. So here's how this works. You just pull this up and fold it over. And voila, you've got the keyboard and music stand all built into one protective case. Now, while that's pretty cool, it's by far not the coolest thing about this keyboard. And the coolest thing is that it uses the Yamaha Playcard System. So let me show you how that works. Let's take a closer look at the keyboard. It's a 49 key setup with the smaller or miniature keys. It has a very similar setup to many of the Yamaha keyboards of the era with the style of the buttons and sliders. The instrument selector, or orchestra as Yamaha likes to call it, uses radio style buttons. So these physically allow you to select one instrument and it pops out whatever was selected before. One nice feature about this is that the keyboard will remember which instrument you were using after a power cycle. Let's take a look at the rear. It has stereo line output jacks, which I'll go ahead and connect to so that I can give you clear audio of what you'll be seeing shortly. I will also be powering this from external power. And I should also point out that it has a microphone input along with a volume control knob, and this is most likely so that you can sing along with whatever you're playing. Next, I want to give you an overview of the 10 different instruments it has. I'll start with the piano. Let's try adding some sustain to that. Now let's try the stereo symphonic. This thing does have 7 polyphonic voices, by the way. Also, there is a transpose feature here. You can go down 5 half steps, or up 5 half steps. Okay, so let's try out all the instruments. Of course, there are a variety of preset rhythms that you can use as well. As you can imagine, there is some auto chords for the rhythms too. So, now that I've shown you the keyboard itself, let me show you the Playcard System. This is a piece of music, and this particular one is Dancing Queen by ABBA. On this side, you have lyrics and information about the overall song itself. On the other side, we have the actual sheet music. Now, let me pull it out of this protective sleeve. notice this black stripe down here? This is a magnetic strip. It works much in the same way a credit card stripe works. If you just want to try playing the sheet music, you can set it right here. But if you want it to do its magic, you do this. As the music plays, the melody will light up on the keyboard to help teach you the notes. Perhaps you'd like to play some Christmas music. Looking at the sheet music, I noticed that all of the music I have appears monophonic, in that you're only given single notes at a time. It does appear there is also an additional monophonic background track that is not shown on the sheet music. In fact, thinking about this, I've determined there is quite a lot of information stored on that magnetic strip. After all, there's the rhythm selection, instrument selection, tempo, a melody track, a background track, and a chord selection for the accompaniment. The data stored on this magnetic strip is actually really similar to what you might see on a credit card or a driver's license. It just so happens to be a lot longer so that it can store a lot more information. But the actual technology for reading and writing to those strips is actually really similar to what you might have with an old digital cassette drive like this. The read head is almost identical, and the stripe on this play card is pretty similar to if you just had a piece of cassette tape media glued to a piece of paper. In fact, I wondered what would happen if I ran this play card through one of these square gadgets and recorded the sound. And here's what I got. It sounds, not surprisingly, very similar to listening to a computer program stored on a cassette tape. What I did find interesting is that it has 4 distinct sections, but I can only guess at this point as to what they are. It would certainly be possible to analyze this information and work out how the information is stored, but I imagine it would take me months or years to figure it out. Maybe I'll let somebody else do that.
This new Yamaha Porta sound has the exclusive Yamaha Playcard System, which can turn you into an instant keyboard player. Slide in a play card and watch the melody lamps. They show you which keys to play. See, and the built-in band will even wait until I get it right.
So how does this compare to Casio's ROM-Pack system that was popular around the same time period? Well, in terms of information stored, they seem to be virtually identical. However, I suspect there were some trade-offs in terms of cost. For example, I'm pretty sure the ROM cartridge probably cost more to manufacture than one of these play cards. But one trade-off might be the fact that the Yamaha keyboard would require an extra RAM chip inside in order to basically copy the information from the card into RAM in order to be able to play it. In fact, it's clear the Casio keyboards read straight from the ROM-Pack because if you pull one out while it's playing, the music will stop. However, then it occurred to me there is one other difference. These ROM cartridges can hold multiple songs. In fact, I've seen some that have as many as 20 songs on board. So in theory, you'd need as many as 20 of these play cards to accomplish the same thing. So that may have made up some of the cost difference in producing these. So in that regard, the Casio system does have one advantage. The best I can tell, there were only 7 or 8 Yamaha keyboards that supported this format, and the format died out after just a couple of years, which is kind of surprising, whereas the Casio format continued for many, many years, and they used it on dozens of different keyboard models. However, despite being short-lived, there is no shortage of play card titles available, although the vast majority of the music is from the 1970s or even older. It appears that quite a lot of it was sold as a set, so you would essentially buy an album like this one, and it comes with a bunch of songs. Also, there's a special cleaning card that's used to clean the head. It has a fabric-like feeling to it, and you just run it through like this to clean the head. Okay, so the only thing left to do now is disassemble it. I have some sneaking suspicions about what I'm going to find, but I won't say anything until I confirm it. Okay, well, the back of the case lifts off easily enough. And it certainly appears that there are a lot of dip package style chips on the other side, but it isn't going to be easy getting to them. Fortunately, Yamaha uses connectors that can be disconnected, unlike Casio's from the same time period where everything is soldered on, so this does make things easier. However, I'm still not able to get this board out due to the speakers, so I will have to desolder these. Fortunately, they're easy to reach, and this was super easy. Okay, so I can finally turn this board over and we can have a look. Unfortunately, most of the chips are upside down from this angle, but that's okay. I'll make it a bit easier for you to see. So this is a clone of the Intel 8085 microprocessor, and this was used in a lot of electronics at the time, including other keyboards and even some personal computers. And over here is a Yamaha IG10771 synthesizer chip. And this is one of the last synthesizers they made before switching everything to FM. And I have one other keyboard that uses this same chip, which is the Yamaha MK100, which I've shown in a previous video. I suspected the sound chip would be the same, being they were made around the same time and sounded almost identical. I have always said that this chip reminds me of a Commodore 64's SID chip with a lot more voices. This chip here, I'm not 100% sure about, but one website related to a different Yamaha keyboard said it might be a matrix decoder, which would have to do with reading the state of the keys. And over here, not surprisingly, is a ROM chip, followed by 2 RAM chips, and each one is a 2K static RAM, giving a total of 4 kilobytes for this keyboard. And the last chip is a generic Mitsubishi chip, which is a parallel port. Most likely it's used to read the various buttons on the top of the keyboard. And last, of course, I want to show you the read head for those play cards. It's kind of buried in there, but I think I can get it out. Okay, it seems to be held in with a spring. Let's see if I can get that apart. And here we go. So yeah, just as I suspected, it looks really similar to the read head on a cassette drive. So from a perspective of sound capability, this keyboard is virtually identical to the Yamaha PSS-260 and PSS-450, which both use the same sound chip and have a similar number of preset instruments. And of course the MK100 that I have also uses the same sound chip, but is infinitely more customizable. Alright, well that about wraps it up for this episode. I do want to apologize that I didn't do any kind of multi-track recording. I had actually planned to do that. In fact, I spent a whole day trying to come up with a song, and it was just one of those days I just couldn't get inspired. I just couldn't come up with a tune that I wanted to work with. So I just decided I had a lot of other stuff to cover on this keyboard anyway, so just decided to skip it. But on the bright side, I do plan to do multi-track recordings eventually on one of this keyboard's cousins, one of those other 3 keyboards I talked about that share the same sound chip. So in essence, someday you will hear a multi-track recording on this in a different episode, even though it'll be a slightly different keyboard. Hopefully that's some consolation. Anyway, that about wraps it up, so stick around for the next time, and thanks for watching.